This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss all the news in the world of sports. My name is Ben.
I'm Pauline.
We had a fantastic sports weekend, Pauline.
Yeah, we did.
Literally more things to cover than I think we're going to have time for, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good weekend, you?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Anything interesting? Anything fun?
What did I do this weekend? Oh, I saw my best friend, who I haven't seen in like 2 weeks, which, I mean, for some people that doesn't seem like a long time, but for us, we were dying. So got to spend a lot of time with her, and it was another friend's bachelorette weekend. So all fun stuff. Fun.
Definitely sounds like a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything spectacular. Just kind of chilled out. Took a nice day off yesterday.
Oh, how nice.
Watched a lot of sports.
Mm-hmm.
Played some video games. So it was definitely a really fun time. And you know what? There's one person who I know for sure had a better weekend than you and I. And it was, I mean, he's gone through a lot in his life, but I'm sure it's probably the best weekend he's ever had. And that's the new Masters champion.
Yeah, how exciting.
Sergio Garcia. The 36-year-old Spaniard finally gets it done in a major. It seems like forever he's been known as the best player to never win a major.
Right.
Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore, Sergio, because he outlasts Justin Rose in the playoff holes. The first playoff hole, he birdies. So he wins the Masters. Obviously, it was the 18th hole. He birdied that hole. Justin Rose bogeyed that hole. So, of course, the way it works in the Masters for playoff holes, if you're tied going into, I should say after the 72nd hole, which they were at 9 under par, that you have 3 holes, basically. If you win the first hole, you win it. You keep going on to play all 3 if you don't win, So, nevertheless, he does win the first playoff hole, getting a birdie on 18, and he defeats Justin Rose in playoffs for his first ever major. This is a guy who, his first Masters was in 1999. This was his 19th time just trying to win this tournament alone, let alone
persistence.
USA, or I'm sorry, the PGA Championships, the US Open, the British Open, none of them. The Masters, since 1999, he's been in the Masters, 19th time. You factor in all the other majors as well. Maybe he didn't play in a couple of them for injury or something, but you're factoring in a guy who's tried at this 75 times and is still coming up short, time in and time out.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic for him to finally get it done. And you know what? He faced a lot of adversity, especially on the back nine on the 13th hole. He was like 2 shots back. He hits it out into like the woods. I don't know what you call it, like the bark on the ground, the pine straw or whatever it's called. He hits it right in there. You're thinking, oh God, like Rose has a 2-shot lead now. Garcia's probably going to drop a stroke, if not more, with this whole incident really being out in the woods and everything. But he rallied. He got a par on the hole. Justin Rose got a par as well, so he didn't really gain any ground there. So you're like, yeah, I mean, it's almost like he was out of it, but now there's a little glimmer of a chance. And then goes on to hole 15, gets an eagle there to tie it up. So you're like, okay, we got 3 holes left, 16, 17, 18. And it's anyone's game. And they both had their chances. They missed some putts. A lot of missed putting yesterday. But then he goes into the sudden death playoff holes, and Garcia finally gets it done in there. And, for a guy who's definitely faced a lot of adversity, he had a lot to say. He said, it's been an amazing week, and one I'm definitely going to enjoy for the rest of my life.
Aww.
It's been like a couple of decades of heartache in these tournaments that define careers. and he finally had what it take to get it done to finally win this major championship and to win honestly the best one too.
Right? How sweet.
Exactly.
Like so much, so much sweeter.
For a guy who finally, he's been known as the guy who could just never really get it done. Like always competing, and he's coming into this tournament in the last 3 majors. He finished in the top 5 in 2 of them. So he was definitely playing good golf as of late as well. But a guy who just simply could not get it done to win the biggest tournament is definitely something that's very exciting. And I'm very happy for Sergio Garcia because it's not like he's had a bad career, fantastic career, but like I said, he's always
you don't want that to be your legacy of your career, though.
Exactly. You don't want to be known as the guy who got there but couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like the Utah Jazz of the 90s. Oklahoma City Thunder with Durant. I mean, they were kind of like that team that just were there but couldn't really get over the hump. And that was kind of Sergio Garcia before yesterday. And he becomes the 3rd Spaniard to ever win the Masters. He joins Seve Ballesteros and Jose Maria Olazabal, who won it in 1994 and 1999. And it's definitely a great feat for Sergio Garcia. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah.
When you're looking at some of the other players on the leaderboard, of course, Justin Rose comes in second. Justin Rose had a fantastic Saturday. That was where he really did a lot of his damage. He got a 67. So we had, talking on Friday, I was talking to Anthony about Charlie Hoffman, who shot a 7 under par in the first round and really had a 3-shot lead. He really established himself. But he really started falling back even as early as Friday. He dropped 3 strokes on that day, and he really did not have a great tournament. So it's something he just really had a good round and then kind of fizzled out from there. And then you have some other guys like Jordan Spieth. He finished a 1 under par, tied for 11th, and it's almost like it was deja vu for Spieth yesterday because he shot a 75, so he shot 3 over par yesterday. But he hit it in the water again on hole 12, just like he did last year when he kind of collapsed in that final round when he had the lead. And it's almost like I heard a lot of people talking about the golf gods, and you don't want to rustle their feathers.
Right,
I mean,
right.
And him and his caddy, I forget his caddy's name, but he and his caddy kind of said the wrong things going into the week because Spieth has been so dominant at the Masters in particular because they're the same golf course every year, Augusta National in Georgia. And he kind of rustled a lot of their feathers well, my guy, he's a really good putter and the other guy should fear him out there on the course. And it's well,
about that.
Kind of spoke a little too soon there, buddy, pal, because, Spieth had a good second and third round, 69, 68, but he definitely spoke a little too early, and then it's you hit it in the water again on the 12th hole, when you were really out of contention at the time. So it's kind of I don't think I would have necessarily gone there with it, but definitely not the greatest of things for Spieth. Like I said, he did finish tied for 11th. I mentioned Charlie Hoffman. He actually had a really, really poor round yesterday. Shot 6 over par, finished tied for 22nd at 2 over. So for a guy who was 7 under par, 8 under par at one point, to finish 2 overs, definitely unfortunate for Hoffman. Charlie Hoffman. But some other notables, we have Phil Mickelson. He finished tied for 22nd as well at 2 over. Had a good first round. He was only 1 under par, so a lot of people thought that he might be able to stick around, but couldn't really get any good solid rounds. Didn't have a round under 71, which was his opening day round. So you have Jason Day at 2 over, Lee Westwood at 1 over. Martin Keimer at even par. He's a former Masters winner. Ricky Fowler had a good second round, but this third and fourth round couldn't really get it done. Shot a 76 yesterday, which is 4 over par. So, this tournament's definitely, Pauline, more about Garcia winning it because of all the, like I said, all the heartbreaks and adversity he's had to go
that's
through.
A long time.
Exactly. Like
19
I said, he's been
Masters,
for almost 2 decades now. Won a lot of tournaments in his career, but never the ones that people remember.
Right.
So it's definitely a good, heartfelt story for him, and I'm very happy for him. And I'm sure, hopefully, he can ride some of this momentum. He's been playing great in majors. Hopefully, he can ride some of this momentum in to the U.S. and the British and everything else coming this summer. So it's definitely a good story for Sergio Garcia. But we're going to take our first break here at the GSMC Sports Podcast. After the break, we're going to talk about basketball because honestly, this might be the best basketball weekend we've had. And it's like, oh, you'd think there's like a lot of meaningless games. So we got a lot of storylines from Russell Westbrook, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kevin Durant's return. So we'll talk all things basketball coming up next here at the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Saturday marked the return of Kevin Durant back to the Golden State Warriors lineup. And Steve Kerr said right away, he's not going to have any minute restrictions, not going to have anything that he's necessarily looking for. Like, he's totally ready to go.
Right.
He played 31 minutes. He had 16 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. So really nice stat line. Didn't really shoot.
Not bad, yeah.
Didn't shoot too well. 6 of 15, 0 of 4 from 3. But he looked like he was fully healthy. So now you throw Kevin Durant back into the mix with this already hot Golden State Warriors team. Came in with a 13-game winning streak. Now it's, of course, 14 with the win over New Orleans because they won 123-101. They killed them.
Right.
So, now how much better does this make Golden State?
Yeah, I'm excited for them. I know we kind of talked about a little bit about Durant and how he can sometimes be kind of like that wild card because they don't necessarily need him. But then when he does come in and he's putting up, the first game back and he's playing like that. So it's nice to have him, especially Steph.
And Steph did not play on Saturday. A quote-unquote left knee contusion, which is a fancy word for a bruise. But,
right.
taking a nice little break in my eyes. Because they already have the number 1 seed wrapped up. There's really no need to play them.
Right. So it's good. I'm glad that Durant was able to come off the bat like that. Hopefully it's not too much too soon and that he'll be able to maintain through the playoffs.
Definitely. So we'll see. The Western Conference, the playoffs are actually all set. We have the matchups 1 through 8 because nobody is going to, well, not necessarily because the Clippers and the Jazz are still fighting for 4 and 5, although they're going to play each other depending on who gets home court is what we're looking at. So, obviously the Warriors number 1, Spurs 2, Rockets 3, Clippers currently 4, Jazz 5, Thunder 6, Grizzlies 7, and Trailblazers 8. That is because the Nuggets were eliminated from the playoffs yesterday.
Right.
Because of what Russell Westbrook did to them.
I know.
Like, literally was like, took like a stake and just stabbed him right in the heart. Okay, so on Friday, Westbrook needed, of course, 6 assists to average a triple-double for a season, which he did against the Suns. And then yesterday, he gets his 42nd triple-double of the season, which is the most all-time. So he has done what Oscar Robertson did and averaged a triple-double, and now he's got the most all-time in a single season. And on top of that, he hits the game-winning three-pointer from about 40 feet to beat the Nuggets 106-105. Russ finished with 50 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists. Only 2 turnovers as well.
So that's actually a stellar
cutting them out
game for
Shot
Russ.
17 of 32, 5 of
Personal
12.
best. Personal best.
5 of 12 from 3, and none bigger than that shot at the buzzer. And you know what, Pauline? I'm going to give your boy Russell Westbrook some love. Okay? I got to give him a lot of credit and a lot of respect. Number 1, he did what most people thought is the unthinkable, averaging a triple-double.
Right.
Number 2, he put up his 42nd triple-double of the season, which is the most all-time. So I guess you can say he one-upped Oscar Robertson in that case.
Yeah.
And he had his MVP moment yesterday. Hits a game winner at the buzzer from 40
he
feet
showcased.
out. 50 points on that night where he set history.
Right.
That's
a nice stat line for the record.
I've been saying Harden all season long, but I don't know how you can't give the MVP to Russ now. James Harden had something to say. He finally talked about the MVP. He feels like win should be more important.
Of course. Sure, he does.
And now you're going to say that because Westbrook,
that's the only thing that he has in the
advantage. As high of a percentage, but points. He's got the advantage, rebounds advantage. Harden has him on assists, but of course, Westbrook's averaging a triple-double, which is something that's very, very important in some people's eyes. So James Harden does have the edge on wins, but I mean, their team is better, so it's not necessarily apples to oranges in my eyes.
Right.
I don't know how you can't give Russ the MVP after what he did this weekend, and then especially yesterday. He had that MVP moment you got to have where it's like, wow. And right at the end of the season, too, that lasting impression, that's what people are going to remember. Like, oh, he hit that game winner against the Nuggets. The Nuggets literally got eliminated from the playoffs yesterday on that shot.
Yes, yeah.
Like, you look at their bench after the game, and they're like, just like,
well,
okay,
great.
I guess
Season's
we'll try
over.
to hope for the lottery now.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was definitely incredible for Russ to do. Fantastic night. Congratulations to him. In the loss, Danilo Gallinari did have 34 points and 10 rebounds for the Nuggets, but as I mentioned, they are eliminated from playoff contention. The 8th seed will be the Portland Trailblazers to have. So, Pauline, that moves us on to the other big game in basketball yesterday.
Right.
And the other big storyline. That's where we're going to sort of have a lot of the segment go from here and then kind of end it with that. The Cleveland Cavaliers played the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta wins 126-125 in overtime. Thinking to yourself, okay, like not too much, a close game all the way through. Well, not so much the case. The Cavaliers blow a 26-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
To go to overtime, and the Hawks win by 1. Wait, what? The Cavs
That's not a good look.
The Cavs gave up 44 points in the fourth quarter and only scored 18. They, like I said, they blow a 26-point lead in the fourth quarter.
You give any team 44 points in a fourth quarter, you're most likely going to lose. Like, they were down by so much, so it forced it to overtime, okay. But they deserve that win.
I mean, the Cavaliers right now, okay, on Friday, I kind of tooted my own horn a little too early. I was like, the Cavaliers are back.
Right.
They pounded Boston on, what was that, Wednesday night?
Yes.
Then they went and won their next game really convincingly. They had like a game and a half, 2-game lead over the Celtics because the Celtics lost to these same Atlanta Hawks. And I was like, you know what? I think the Cavs are they're kind of peaking at the right moment. You know what I mean? They're playing good. They just toppled Boston in Boston, which was tough to do. But now you look at it, and they're both tied at 51-29 now. And the Cavaliers literally let one get away. They blew a 26-point fourth quarter lead.
That's incredible.
I don't know how you allow that to happen. Just not right mindset. I mean, Kyrie had 45 points and 9 assists in the loss. LeBron had a triple-double, 32, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists.
We're going to shift into cruise control gear.
You think they just kind of like...
And...
Had a clunker?
Dismissed, yeah. If you're up by that much in the fourth quarter, everybody's like...
Things happen, but still, I mean, that is just... There's no reasoning. And then do you see what they did after the game? They're like blaming the refs. They're like, we got some unfair calls there at the end. Like, you were up by 26. Like,
right.
You shouldn't have even let it get to that point.
Close. They gave up 44 points in one quarter.
Right. I mean, they were controlling the game the whole way through. They're by 17 after 1. They're by 19 at halftime. And like I said, up 27 at the start of the fourth quarter, but I don't really count 27-point fourth quarter blown lead right when the game starts. So I'll say 26. But, I mean, there's just really, really no excuse and explanation for that. Paul Millsap in the victory did have 22 points and 9 rebounds. Tim Hardaway Jr., he seems to have found a little bit of a home here in Atlanta. He had 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists as well. But, I mean, are you really worried about the Cavs?
I mean, I'm not worried about them, but if little things like this is what they're just... I'm not worried about the Cavaliers, but either they need to... They keep getting all these little wake-up calls and little warning signs that everybody else is not going to, in the East, is not going to lay down and take it. And so either they got to shift it.
Gonna take it.
Exactly. So either they need to come and shift back into we have to dominate versus just do a little bit because we're going to win anyways type mentality. Then they could get some couple scares like this.
I feel like I keep going back and forth on this conversation the whole entire time. Am I necessarily worried about the Cavs? I'm not. Did they let one get away yesterday? Yes, they kind of screwed up yesterday. But the one thing I am worried about with Cleveland, well, I guess I'll say two things. One of them kind of depends on if the Hawks do, in fact, get into the second round of the playoffs. Because let's say I'll give the Cavs the 1 seed. The Hawks are the 5. So if they beat the Wizards, then they will be in the second round against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs this season are 1-3 against the Hawks. The one game the Cavs did win was only by 5. So pretty competitive games the whole way through, but the Hawks have definitely had the Cavs' edge this season. So if they do face the Hawks, I'm a little worried. The one thing I am a little worried with the Cavs is that they just can't win on the road. They're 20-20 this season on the road. They're 500 on the road.
So it's a hit or miss.
If they have the number 1 seed, they technically don't need to win a road game because let's say it goes to 7 every game.
Right.
They're going to have those 4 home games. But, I mean, that's not ever going to happen. It's not like they're going to go back and forth, home, lose on the road. Home.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So I am a little worried that they simply can't win on the road because if they play the Warriors, if they play the Spurs, they're going to have to win on the road because they're not as good as record-wise as those two teams. So I am a little worried in that regard, but as a whole, I'm really not. It's just kind of like, y'all are up by how much? Like, and you?
Yes.
I mean, and then even Boston, it seemed like they were kind of out of it last week. Now they're kind of back in the mold. What if they get the number 1 seed? I realize the Cavs just beat them at the TD Garden in Boston, but I mean, can they do that over a series if they get there? I still think they can. I still think they'll get out of the East, but it's like, y'all are just continuing to give me reasons to It's like I want to believe in you guys, but you're not. You're just continue to give me reasons to let me down. And I mean, for the Cavs, definitely not a good sight at all. A 26-point fourth quarter lead that they blow it. And then real quick, we'll end it with one more thing. The Lakers did beat the Timberwolves last night. A battle of, I'm going to say the tanks. I mean, the Lakers are super tanking. They're 25-55 because remember they do need to keep that top 3 pick, or else they lose it to the Philadelphia 76ers. But a little good news last night. D'Angelo Russell hits a game-winning 3 at the buzzer to win 110-109, and he actually dedicated it to his grandmother who had died that same day.
Oh.
And if you look at the shot, he's on basically the left wing, I guess, and he hits a 3. The ball bounces off the rim and goes straight up in the air and then goes down. It's 9 times out of 10 that shot's probably going out. So, I mean, it's almost like he had her with him at the time, and that's definitely...
Oh, nice.
Exactly. It's definitely a good story. So the Lakers pick up their 25th win of the season, which I'm sure Magic Johnson's like, yay, not really. I kind of wanted us to lose.
Yes.
But the Lakers do get the win yesterday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll take our final break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Pauline and I, after the break, will be talking just kind of a multitude of things. A little bit of baseball. We had UFC 210 over the weekend. Give you some results from there. And then we'll kind of say goodbye until tomorrow. So we are going to take our last break here at the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We're talking a little baseball here. Baseball, of course, Pauline started last week. Tonight, we finally get the Cubs to have a home game for the first time all season.
I know.
They will raise the World Series banner tonight
How
at
exciting.
8 Eastern. Oh, I know.
I love
108
those.
years they have not won the World Series until last year.
Banner, when you go to see, banners or all that, to honor the win from the previous season, those are just so much fun. So much fun.
And
it's
there's
just
the power behind.
Yeah.
Cubs are definitely one of the most popular teams even before last year, but 108 years apart. They're playing the Dodgers tonight, which is definitely a good matchup. It'll be a really interesting game. That's 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ESPN if you want to check that out. We did have a couple of definitely bizarre and just ridiculous things happen in baseball this week, though. So, the Angels yesterday scored 7 runs in the 9th inning to come back and walk off against the Seattle Mariners 10-9. They scored 7 in the last inning. They had a 6-run deficit going into the 9th. Albert Pujols leads off with he hits a home run, number 592 of his career. Like, oh, okay, great, a little parting gift. Like, well, I mean, not so much the case. I mean, more people, Pennington drove in Mike Trout. It was 9-3, and then they're just kind of like slowly chipped away, and they scored 7 in the 9th inning. It's a great victory. The Angels now 5-2. The Mariners are really struggling in their first week, only 1-6, and they let one get away yesterday. And then on Saturday, the Philadelphia Phillies scored 12 runs in the first inning, and they pounded the Nationals 17-3. So they scored 12 in the first inning. Jeremy Guthrie started that day for the Nats. He went 2/3 of an inning and gave up 10 runs. He didn't even complete a whole inning. That's definitely it's definitely not the way you want to start the season for old Jeremy, but nevertheless, there is some other games out there you could look forward to. So, it can't be any worse, can it? Like, you're not going to give up more than 10 runs in 2/3 of an inning. So, yeah, sorry there, Jeremy. Didn't mean to throw any shade at you, but I just got
another incredible thing.
Definitely got to just report on what happened. And then we'll shift over now to UFC 210 was this weekend. The headliner, Daniel Cormier versus Anthony Johnson. So second matchup for the light heavyweight championship. And Cormier taps out Anthony Rumble Johnson in the second round via rear naked choke. So Cormier now improves to 19-1. And Anthony Johnson actually retired after the match, Pauline. So do you feel like... I feel like when people do that... I'm not surprised that they lost, because if you're obviously thinking about that going into the match. Or I guess you say the fight.
You're dealing with that within yourself too. Yeah.
So it's like you're going to think about, you're contemplating retirement, you have a lot of things on your mind. To find out that he did that after the match, I was like, I'm not really surprised that he did lose, because you're probably contemplating that, not really solely focused on the championship fight. And Cormier is definitely one of the best out there. It almost looks like he's on a collision course to fight John Jones again. And we were supposed to see it at UFC 200, of course, but then you did have a suspension with John Jones because of another failed drug test, and there was an injury prior to that. So it seemed like we're all building up, and then it's finally here, and then it's a letdown. Now we're just slowly building up, and then it's almost like I said, they're on a collision course to fight again. And hopefully that fight does happen again. Of course, John Jones did win the first matchup against Daniel Cormier.
Right.
But they're definitely the top 2 guys in the light heavyweight division right now. And that's the fight we all want to see. They definitely have some bad blood between the two of them. They're not big fans of each other. So that's definitely what we want to see. And hopefully it does get done after the suspension. Some other matchups there is Gegard Mousasi defeated Chris Weidman in the second round via TKO. Cynthia Caballero defeated Pearl Gonzalez. Thiago Alves defeated Patrick Cote. Charles Oliveira defeated Will Brooks as well. So UFC 210, definitely a really good event. And congratulations to everybody getting it done over there in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And we'll end the show with one more story, Pauline. And it's my boy Tim Tebow, as I call him, because he's playing baseball. Right. Not Tebow, but T-ball.
I love him.
You love him?
Yeah. I think he's a really nice guy.
Well, Tebow, he did it again. You'll remember in his first at-bat for the Single-A Columbia Fireflies, of course, the Mets Single-A affiliate, he hit a home run to left center field in his first at-bat. Well, yesterday, Pauline, he did it again. He hit another home run. This one, a 3-run shot to right field. Tebow getting it done. He drove in, obviously, the 3 runs. Although, he's only 2 of 10 in his first 2 games. The 2 hits, home runs. So it's like, I'm going to hit a home run or I'm going to hit nothing, right?
Can't win them all.
That was like the perfect, icing on the cake reaction there. You can't win them all. But Tebow,
Go Tim.
Like,
I'm rooting for you, Tim, no matter what he wants to do.
Anthony and I were talking about this, okay? And it's almost like he gets up for the big moments, and then with the exception of that, it's kind of like he's MIA, missing in action. Because it's it's first at bat in the Arizona Fall League, first pitch he sees, home run. Mm-hmm. Now, first at bat, home run.
Right.
Second hit, home run. You know what I mean?
Right.
He gets up for the big moments, but other than that, it's he's just totally not there. In the when he was with the Broncos, first throw of overtime, completes the pass to Marius Thomas for 80 yards to win the game. Other than that, he's totally MIA.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's he just gets up for these big moments, and it's geez, how do you have that mindset? I mean, it's a great mindset to have. Congratulations to Tim. Hopefully you have some success as a baseball player. It's definitely...
He will.
I wouldn't go that far, but...
He will.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, the guy hasn't played in 10 years, and he's out there hitting a couple home runs, even in the minors at single A. That's definitely a really impressive feat.
Yes!
So I'll give you some credit for that, Tebow. So hopefully you can have some continued success. But, hey, he's hitting in single A. When's he going up for double A?
When the time is right.
I mean, he's hitting 200. He's, of course, 2 of 10.
Right.
But the 2 are home runs, so...
Go Tim. No, I like him.
As a person, you gotta like him.
Gotta love him.
Everything he does is fantastic.
He's a nice guy.
Seems like a nice guy.
It's gonna work out for him. Sergio Garcia.
Seems like a nice guy.
It's gonna work out for him.
The one criticism I have of Tebow just seems like he just can't stay out of the limelight. You know what I mean? He always has to kind of throw his hat in there.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the one thing I've been kind of negative on.
He's pretty good at PR. We're not gonna forget about him.
No, never.
See?
I mean, you're not talking about any other single A baseball player ever, except for Tim Tebow. So I guess he's doing something right, and he's, of course, hitting home runs. So that's going to be it for the show, though. Pauline and I are going to be taking a hiatus for one day because we are leaving the studio right now. My name is Ben.
I'm Pauline.
We will see you guys next time here at the GSMC Sports Podcast. Thank you listening for once again, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.